Pope Francis dies. Klaus Schwab resigns from the WEF. China warns people not to sign trade deals with the US. The Supreme Court drops a midnight injunction. Alito and Thomas dissent. Brett Weinstein has a banger take on the dumb voter problem. Future Tech brings us a mixed bag, mind-controlled hands, drone-delivered grenade upgrades, Google's XR glasses, and Cluely's cheat on everything stance. Drew, I can't tell what's going to come first, the disillusion of the global world order or the ability to throw back a grenade, a drone-delivered grenade with my robot-controlled hand. It is.
If you have the wireless hand, can you like throw it at the drone
and then
it can like zone in?
I hope so. We're getting there. Once they put the little rocket boosters on the hand,
that's what
Drew,
I mean.
it is literally only a matter of time. It's crazy. Anime becoming real life.
Oh, man. Well, on a somber note, and for people who are fans of the conclave, it is coming to life in real life. Pope Francis died this morning at 88, April 21st, 2025. It's ironic. He was just visiting the White House. He had an event.
Was he
Sunday
visiting
morning.
the White House? Did he die in the U.S.?
No. I'm sorry, JD. He was just visiting with JD Vance.
Yeah, I was going to say, okay.
JD Vance just went to go visit him. He had an event at his church, St. Peter's, and then he passed in the evening. Him and the 1.3 billion Catholics across the world mourn his loss. He was the first Latin American pope, like somebody not from like traditionally European countries.
Dude. Okay, first of all, I don't know anything about Pope Francis, so forgive me that I don't have a lot to add. Certainly sad when anybody dies. I have no idea if I'm for or against what he stands for, but I will say that what the Catholics did in terms of spreading their religion is brilliant. The whole no birth control, very smart. Like when I hear about religions where they have like a thing where you can't get people in from the outside, it's just like, if you want your religion to grow, you need a way to farm adherents. I mean, I don't know what other word to use. Like you gotta be out there, like getting people on your team. And the Catholics have done an amazing job of that. They've also done an amazing job of accumulating wealth. So hey, they've got a lot going for them.
I have to bring the movie back up because literally last year's Oscar winner for Best Writing was Conclave. Yeah, and it was about what happens when a pope dies, and they have to have like a joint conclave, a conference of all the popes to decide it. And
not popes, cardinals?
Or I'm sorry, all the cardinals, yeah. The thing to add to your point is that there was a table from people from Africa, a table from people from South America, a table from people from the Middle East, and you just see this rainbow coalition of Catholics from all around the globe, all vying for like this one spot.
Catholics don't play, man. They really went to get people on the team.
So it was literally
some
every corner
pretty
of the earth.
Grotesque horrors throughout history. Let's be very clear about how they did it. When Columbus came to America, I'm now asking, was that about Catholics? It was certainly about Christianity. I just don't know if it was specifically.
No, I thought that was the Spanish. He made the barter with the Spanish queen to get more resources, so they were trying to shortcut India.
Yes, but like a big thing of it was, hey, don't worry, I'm going to go back and I'm going to spread the word of our Lord.
After like he touched base, then he came
it was
back.
Catholics. So we'll have to look that up. In fact, we should look that up right now. Was Columbus Catholic?
Yes. Another achievement that the Columbus is awarded is the spread of Christianity, more specifically the spread of Catholicism.
There we go, man. I'm telling you, like pretty grotesque, some of the things they did, but a definite win if you're just trying to get numbers on the side. So shout out. In fact, there is a book, I think we talked about this briefly before, called 1493 by Charles C. Mann, which chronicles what a watershed moment Columbus coming to the Americas was, not for the reasons that we have historically celebrated him, but for the fact that he basically introduced the terraforming of planet Earth, turning it into one homogeneous thing. It's crazy. There are things in that book I had no idea. Like the bringing over of earthworms was like radical in terms of what it did to the soil. The different plants that are now grown all over the world, like potatoes, which we think of, at least in an American context, we think a lot about the Irish potato famine. And it wasn't until long after that potatoes even made their way to Ireland, and so that it becomes the number one crop. It's crazy. So all kinds of fascinating things that happen as you try to spread religion, try to increase trade, which was Columbus's whole thing is, hey, I can find a quick way to, I think he was specifically aiming at China. Whoops. But we certainly found the Caribbean. So there's that.
There is that. Well, in the middle of the night on this long weekend, the Supreme Court was up working. They did a emergency injunction that blocked the deportation of Venezuelans that were being held in Texas. This is on the back of the El Salvador case with Kilmar Garcia. Some people are saying they're doing this so that way the same thing didn't happen, but this is straight from the court's mouth. I'll read the notice right now. This is the order in pending case. Again, this is a temporary injunction, just something so that they can freeze the deportations now, but there needs to be a more formal process in the future to solidify. There is before the court an application on behalf of a putative class of detainees seeking an injunction against their removal under the Alien Enemies Act. This matter is currently pending before the Fifth Circuit. Upon action by the Fifth Circuit, the Solicitor General is invited to file a response to the application before this court as soon as possible. The government is directed not to remove any member of the putative class of detainees from the United States until further order of this court. See legal jargon, legal jargon, legal jargon. Justice Thomas and Justice Alito dissent from the court's order. Statement from Justice Alito to follow. He did release a 5-page statement after that, kind of going through the bullet points of where they got wrong. Summarizing this at a very high level, he thought it was breaking precedent, being one, a midnight injunction. This was before the lower courts had an opportunity to respond, especially on a holiday weekend. They send a request in the afternoon on Good Friday, and they expected an answer, an hour or two back later. So there were just some things that weren't normally done in this way that were done for the specific case. I would argue, now this is Andrew speaking, they wanted to avoid what happened with Kilmar Garcia and another mass of people just getting shipped out before they can do something and then it'd be out of their hands again.
I think it's
What's your take?
Yeah, I think it's slightly different than that. So this to me is a battle about due process. Mm-hmm. This is certainly a political battle happening within the within SCOTUS in terms of what is the right tension between the different branches of government. How strong should the executive be? So it is going to be very interesting to see all of this play out. So I am prepared to, whenever I encounter something where I don't have the same intuitive read as what's happening, I fall back on, okay, what are the principles upon which my thinking is based? And I'll, unless I'm willing to update one of my principles, I'll live and die by the principle as read. So for me, the principle that I view all of this through is that you have 3 branches of government for a reason. There is meant to be tension between these branches of government, that if the Supreme Court makes a decision, then the play is to say, hey, we have a Supreme Court for a reason. The Supreme Court has ruled on this. So if they've given a temporary injunction and 7 of the 9, which is true in this case, have said, we think that this temporary injunction makes sense, I'm cool. Unless I'm going to dive deep into the weeds and figure out for myself what's going on, I'm perfectly happy to say, cool, this is where we're at. Now, at the same time, a big part of the principle that's playing out here is you've got an executive in the form of Donald Trump who really wants to push like the boundaries to find out where are going to be the lines that we're going to draw about how far an executive can go. I can feel things ratcheting up from the perspective of EOs that the president has used. And I'm pretty sure, though, we should ask chat and get this mapped out. I'm pretty sure that over the last several presidents that the number has gone up and up and up. And certainly the tenacity with which Trump is pushing things, I'll try to keep my language as neutral as possible, feels unprecedented. And so through Trump's term, I think that we're going to get a lot of precedent being established around what the president can and can't do. And so right now they're saying, listen, you've been claiming this 9-0 victory in the case of these deportations. You've been saying as if we came down on your side, dear president. And as the dissenting opinion signed by 3 of the justices and penned by Sotomayor made clear, you are not representing the way that we think about this. And so I think that this midnight statement, temporary injunction, was really about him going around trumpeting that oh, this was a victory on my side. And when you actually read the order, it's all about there is due process. Due process was not followed. He should not be doing this. And in the decision here, or excuse me, in the dissenting opinion here, what you have from Alito is him saying Trump needs to act in accordance with the Supreme Court decision that we put down, and the Supreme Court justices need to follow the precedent that's been set in terms of how this process is meant to work. And so that feels like the right take to me. Now, again, when something is out of step with my intuitions, I'm perfectly happy to say I, as a citizen of the United States, am obviously held accountable to what the Supreme Court decides. So I would be, from that principled perspective, I don't want to see Trump try to constantly overstep these things. You need to push by all means, but within the bounds of the way that this game is set up. And so while my intuition is that Alito is correct here, he was outvoted in the temporary injunction. My hope is that as both sides are able to make their case and this goes through a more formal process, that we'll see a reversal of that. But I'll happily abide by whatever the Supreme Court decides.
Now, asking you for your personal opinion on this, do you think that there is a line where, whether it's terrorism, whether it's unprotected group, but is it okay for due process to be revoked in certain capacities, or do you?
I think that there needs to be a clear legal precedent, and that whatever you're doing needs to operate within that legal precedent. Mm-hmm. So I don't know the precedent well enough to know, like, hey, are there times, like there's clearly going to be, if a war is declared, there's going to be, the law will apply differently in those times. Mm-hmm. The Alien Enemies Act clearly gives another caveat, and the whole debate is going to be about whether this qualifies or not. So there is a process by which new precedent is set, and if new precedent gets set here, it is what it is. Mm-hmm. What I believe is, yes, there should be caveats. Those caveats should be entered into with the utmost, it should only be in very severe cases. Mm-hmm. And so when I look at what was happening with the southern border, that was grotesque. I think that really sets us up for something deeply problematic in terms of, if you look at what happened on 9/11, this was 19 people that crossed over the southern border. It's already been used for that. So this isn't like me reaching into I can't even imagine. It's never happened before, but it's going to happen this time. I'm saying this has already happened. The largest terror attack on U.S. soil was committed by people that came across the southern border. So I have no reason to believe, in a time of greatly increased international tensions, I'm speaking specifically of China here, that I wouldn't think that that's going to be used to bring people across the border. So I think that you do have an issue. I think that you need to find a solution to protect yourself, not only from future incursions, that feels like a loaded word, but future illegal crossings of the border where people could take advantage of that. You need to protect that. I think Trump has done a good job of that. But you also have to deal with the fact that some number that people are clocking somewhere between 10 and 30 million people that came in illegally. Bro, it does not have to be a big percentage of bad apples before you have a real problem when you're talking about that many people, setting aside the permanent blue state hypothesis that Elon has pushed. Just, are you going to have bad actors? And the answer to me is obviously yes. Okay. Having said all of that, you can't just, I think it would be unwise. It would be unwise to just get rid of due process. So this is the process that needs to play out. You need to go through the Supreme Court. I get why, as the president, he's going to push the boundaries, but I also, I don't want to hear language about we've got to get rid of these guys and get some people that know what they're doing inside. That's somebody that doesn't respect that tension, and I want the tension. I don't assume myself to always be right. I don't assume anybody to always be right. And so you have to, at some point, rely on the systems. And this is the system.
Yeah, it's a tricky situation because there's still a lot more cases of pending people, to your point that there were millions of people coming in over the border for the last 4 years.
This is the hard one for me. So JD Vance was like, listen, you've overwhelmed the system. My intuition is, yes, that's the right take. Obviously, the Supreme Court came out and said, nope, you need due process. We have a way that this works, and you guys are flouting that. And Yet, both of those things strike me as true, that there are too many people, and you are now de facto saying they're here and they're going to stay here. And so again, this goes against my intuition of the right way to handle this. But this is precisely why we have the government the way that we have it, is no one person can be trusted to make these decisions and be right all the time. I don't want to live in a dictatorship. I wouldn't want to be the dictator. So again, while I hope that if I were really trying to make a case for this, I hope that I could make a compelling case, but I wouldn't necessarily want to convince people. I would just want to have my arguments be one of the things that gets debated. And this gets right into Brett Weinstein's, what I think is a W take from the whole Joe Rogan, Dave Smith versus Douglas Murray, which just continues to have legs. It's crazy. I think that this is really a flashpoint for us as a society. Obviously, I call this the dumb voter problem. What do we do when people are too dumb to think well through a problem? If we can, let's play the Brett Weinstein clip, because I just cannot believe that people take any stance other than what Brett is about to say.
The mechanism by which we discovered it is well known. It is the exact thing that the founders of this great country put first on the list of our enumerated rights for a goddamn reason. It was, they couldn't name a podcast. They couldn't have called out Joe Rogan, but they came as close as they could come to saying, sorry, there's no source of high quality information versus low quality information, malinformation, disinformation. You can't know ahead of time. The mechanism by which you come to understand what is true, Douglas, is discussion. It is discussion in which nobody gets to set the rules about what kinds of opinions can be investigated. And yes, that does cause some garbage stuff to be said, but what reveals that it's garbage stuff? Free and open inquiry that reveals that actually it doesn't stand up to scrutiny. That's how you do it, Konstantin Kisin. I don't know what's wrong with these people. It's really like somebody has figured out how to threaten them into saying things that they full well know aren't true.
They're becoming what they were fighting against.
They're becoming what they were fighting against. And I must say, in both of those cases, I feel like I don't think I was duped to begin with, that they actually held free speech as a high value. So the fact that they are backing away from it and calling for some kind of standard, self-imposed or otherwise, to prevent certain, the fact is, heterodoxy is heterodoxy. And it often sounds crazy, and most of it is. But the good stuff is the stuff that sounds crazy that then does strangely stand up to scrutiny. That's how you figure out what's coming, is you look at the heterodox stuff and you figure out what has predictive power. And you can't get around that. And the people who tried failed.
Oh, God, that's such a good take. That's it. Like, to me, that is exactly how people should be looking at this. Now, if I were going to mind read Douglas Murray for a second, because he's going to say, God damn it, how many times did I have to say he is perfectly within his rights to talk about this subject? However, being somebody who's actually gone there, being somebody who is actually an expert on this topic, somebody who's willing to take on the mantle of I am an expert about this, you need to have a balance of those. So fine, Joe Rogan, if you want to have people that come on here and spout off what he considers nonsense, then you need to have a countervailing voice of people that are experts, that have been there. I understand the desire to have people have that fully balanced take. I don't think that's the right play. I don't think getting in a twist about that not happening is the right place to spend mental energy. That is a better way to say it. I think the reality is that ultimately the onus is on the end user to make a decision about the world that they live in. And they are going to have to do that hard work. And I completely understand that not everybody is going to be perceived as being able to do that. However, you just have to allow them to. Otherwise, you get into the authoritarian top-down rule. Who gets to make that decision? But it is admittedly jarring for me to hear some of the voices that, and this does not make me lose respect for them by any means, but it is such a weird take for me that you've got so many people that are like, yeah, freedom of speech is like dope-ish, I guess, but like we ultimately do need this elite class to parse through this information and to hand it to people. And I'm just like, God damn, I get it. We live in the social media age where historically speaking, bad ideas would die on the vine. They just would never be able to get the kind of traction that they're able to get now. You just have to be willing to fight in the court of public opinion, and you have to let this stuff come out in the wash over time. And otherwise you get COVID, man. You get these acute periods where the lunacy of I know what's best for you and therefore shut up and listen and let me do my thing actually keeps people locked in their house for God knows how long. I mean, it's just really bananas.
And almost on cue, Hillary Clinton was just talking about this over the weekend with Rachel Maddow with a one-on-one interview.
And boosting Trump back in 2016. But I also think there are Americans who are engaged in this kind of propaganda. And whether they should be civilly or even in some cases criminally charged is something that would be a better deterrence than boosting Trump back in 2016.
I mean, she used the word propaganda. So what do you think these elite class, what are people worried about that they're willing to take away the number one right that was given to us under the Constitution? Like, what are they trying to protect
Losing
against?
control. Losing control. They are trying to protect against losing control. Okay, that's the bumper sticker. Now going more deeply. People believe they're right. People do not have a healthy distrust for themselves. People think that because they feel something, it is real. People confuse beliefs and values with objective truth. So you put all of that together. They believe that the feelings that they have are predicated on an accurate reading of the situation based on what they believe to be true about the world, based on how the world ought to be, that they also believe is, in some cases, literally handed to them on a stone tablet by God, him or herself. And it's just like, what do you do with that? Like at each one of those points, you have the potential for, I'm right, I know I'm right, and everybody needs to fall in line. And when you realize, and this is where I think good people derail, when you realize that you really are smarter than a lot of people and you really do have way higher predictive beliefs and that person's life really would be better off if they would listen to you. The number of times, dude, that I felt that in my life where I'm like, all this person needs to do is just listen to everything I say and do what I tell them to do, and their life will be better. And like, I really believe it. Like, this person's life would be so much better if they would just do what I say, Drew. And yet, in the face of all that, life has just taught me one immutable truth. I'm often wrong, and I never see it coming. It's always the thing. Like, I think about this a lot with the economy. I know that 5 years from now, I'm going to look back on the way that I think about the economy now and be like, oh, that was stupid. And so that doesn't stop me from feeling right. That doesn't stop me from believing the world really should do what I say right now and that the world would really be better off. But because I try to actually learn my lessons and learn the lessons from history of other people, I just go, I want to be convincing. I don't necessarily want to convince everybody. I want people to have my sort of AIE take on like, this is how I see things. And I want them to go, yeah, I'm going to need like 50 other voices and I'm going to synthesize and then add my voice to the mix. And then over time, we're going to see what are the things that have the highest predictive validity. But everybody's wrong. I've never looked at anybody and been like, wow, you're right about everything. Yeah. So I just don't understand the impulse for people to not recognize I should not be just blanket trusted. I don't get it.
I just don't understand the roots of it, is because it seems like it always comes down to a control thing. And I want it to be like the Supreme Court thing. Like, okay, maybe I'm missing a certain like information topic that will like unlock and like, oh, okay, I get what they're thinking. But when I think about Douglas Murray, when I think about Hillary, I get to the same point of just like, no, you just want the people who you designate as the right ones to listen to be the right ones to listen to. I don't see anything other than that.
I mean, so, okay, let's really go now a layer deeper into the real messiness. There really are better ideas and worse ideas. And some ideas are going to be better for humanity. Some are going to be worse. Some are going to be better for the individual. Some are going to be worse. And so what you have are elite people that are like, yeah, look, I get it. I'm wrong sometimes, but holy bejesus, I'm right way more than these other fools. And so if we listen to these other fools, then life is going to be worse. And I'm looking at my kids and I'm like, I don't want these guys who have a worse track record than me, even though I'm not perfect. They have a worse track record than me. And so I don't want them to win.
Yeah.
Literally, I'm not even necessarily thinking of myself, though, of course, human motivations are very complex. But let's just give them that, like, cool, this isn't about you. You're not trying to make more money. You're not trying to power grab for the sake of power. You're literally looking at your children and you're like, I want their lives to be better. And you're like, I get this right way more frequently than the next person, and therefore we should listen to me. And they're not wrong.
Yeah.
And yet you, I think, need to build a system where you fully understand that the system has to protect itself from people like me who are just convinced that they're right, but some percentage of the time will be wrong. And you have to have enough solidity in the system that it can move forward, right? Like America is not, despite Michael Malice's desire, we are not anarchic. So there is some solidity to the system. There is process. There is a constitution. There are 3 branches of government, et cetera, et cetera.
Yeah.
And I think to our advantage. But nonetheless, you have to be willing to, you have to want, in my opinion, ideas to battle it out. And that never is there a multiplier put on something because it comes from an elite point of view.
Seems like this discussion is growing. Now that Hillary has thrown her hat in the ring, I can just see this kind of rippling into something larger, especially with the next midterm elections coming up, the next presidential election. It's going to be, the war on information is by no means getting any quieter.
Nope.
We'll get back to the show in a moment, but first, let's talk about a major source of stress in relationships: financial disagreements. They consistently rank among the top causes of divorce in America. Most couples avoid money conversations until they escalate into heated arguments. The issue isn't how much you earn, it's about creating transparency and working as a team. That's exactly how Monarch Money can help. Whether you're single or in a relationship, Monarch is a complete financial command center designed to transform how you manage your finances. The Wall Street Journal named it the best budgeting app of 2025, and over 1 million households trust it daily. You can even share access with your financial advisor or tax professional at no extra cost. Stop letting financial stress damage your relationship. Use code THEORY at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. That's half off at monarchmoney.com with code THEORY. This is a paid advertisement. And now, let's get back to the show.
In international news, Klaus Schwab has resigned from the WEF effective immediately. There's still been some speculation. A lot of people are just like, he's 80. He started the organization.
I think he's even older than that. He's 87, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so he's been there since the day one. So a lot of people there hasn't been much. Just he's stepping on and moving on to other things. He's famous for that quote, "You'll own nothing and you'll like it.
And you'll be happy."
Yeah.
I think anyway. I'm pretty sure that's a quote. Klaus Schwab. So not somebody that I have a deep background in, but I know enough to know that the World Economic Forum is losing in the battle of public opinion. And so if I'm inside of that organization and I'm like, listen, Klaus, thank you, brother, for getting us here. Oh God, what was that?
I have no idea.
What is wrong with your feed?
I'm under this
yes,
post.
but let me tell you, there's going to be a difference.
Post.
Dude, you learn so much about somebody by what the feed surfaces. That is, I hate everything about that. You're going to have to show people this. Oh God, you don't. What is happening?
Is that him?
No, get out of here. Is that AI though? Jesus. This is, oh good, zoom in. Oh my God.
That doesn't look like AI.
No, come on, bro. That is horrifying.
Hey,
all right, for anybody that is just listening at home, oh boy, the feed on X under this post about our boy Klaus resigning, it shows him on a nude beach wearing like lace. Oh, wow. AI is coming for us all, boys and girls. Good Lord. Okay, well, I don't know if I'm recommending that you look at that. You kind of need to, but at the same time, that is distressing. Okay, so back to the issue at hand. if I'm inside the organization, yes, I'm going to be like, okay, we've got to get this going again. If we want to get people on our side, we're going to need new leadership. I'm going to guess that they're going to go for somebody younger. I don't know how much younger. We'll see if they're going to be in full gerontocracy mode or if they can actually get somebody in their 40s. That's probably a better play. But yeah, you go after the sick and the weak, Drew. And I think that despite him saying, well, my 88th birthday was about to hit and I just want to go chill, I guess. Yeah. I don't buy that. This happens. People don't give up power willingly.
Even when they're 88?
Listen, as I said that, Ray Dalio certainly came to mind because he seemed to work very, very hard to find a successor. It's rare. Yeah. It's possible that he just wants to go be a grandpa, but my gut instinct is that it was so abrupt. My gut instinct is the abruptness of the resignation tells you a lot more than his age.
No, 100%. I'm literally looking at Google Gemini right now to see kind of what are the highlights WEF does. Shaping global agendas, research and insight development, collaboration and partnerships. So this is a facilitation mechanism for the entire world. And
they're a group of elites that get together and say, how are we all going to think?
Yeah.
As far as I can tell, that's really what's going on.
Curious to see who's the next leader of that group of elites.
We shall see. What's going to be their next agenda item? That's what I really want to know.
Well, China has a new agenda item, and it's telling other people don't mess with the U.S.
Yeah.
If you strike trade deals, there will be consequences. So let's take it to Fox News.
Breaking news this morning, China is warning other countries from making any trade deals with the United States, as countries like Japan and South Korea have begun negotiations with the Trump administration. China's Commerce Ministry releasing a statement saying, quote, China firmly opposes any party reaching a deal at the expense of China's interests. If this happens, China will never accept it, and it will resolutely take countermeasures in a reciprocal manner. China is determined and capable of safeguarding its own rights and interests.
So this seems like China is pulling a U.S. that if you want to sign with the U.S., we're going to start a trade war with everybody too. Yeah. Is this just are we spiraling to the bottom? It doesn't
strong men get a strong man. Yeah. It's just like, this is the rhetoric. So you posture, you bark, and you hope you don't have to bite. We'll see, man. Look, there is now a lobe of my brain dedicated entirely to what's going on with the U.S.-China relation. I do not want to create a fake monster out of China. I grew up in the 80s where Russia was just the bad guy, and we were not looking realistically at this is a nation full of people that love and want to do interesting things in their life. And China is exactly the same, just as I don't want anybody on the global market to assume that America is some big hegemon and that we're just some political animal. Like, we are all also just a bunch of people trying to do cool things in our lives, trying to love, trying to have fun and push our own skills and abilities and all of that stuff. So I don't want to make a caricature of China. At the same time, man, especially having lived through a Cold War, like, I can feel the vibes as we're building towards this. And there are definitely steps that we have to take as a country to protect ourselves economically, protect ourselves militarily. And so to pretend like this isn't, we're the two big fighters, the two heavyweights that are going to end up on the same card. That are on the same card, man. And so the question is, like, what's this going to be? Is this going to be purely economic? Will we find ways to coexist? Are we going to divvy up the world in a way that is reasonable? Or are we going to really go to blows over this? And World War II was significantly larger in death toll than World War I. God forbid we find ourselves in World War III, the death toll would be a grotesque exaggeration of the death toll of World War II, which is like 55 million people, by the way. So this is not a game we want to play. And I don't know how we back out of this. And so I will think largely about how we talk about it, how we cover it. And avoiding a caricature, I think, is step number one. So I think there are things around China to be inspired by. I think there are things that they are doing, have done. In terms of output, I absolutely despise authoritarian top-down rule. I don't think I've made any qualms about that. But at the same time, some of the things that they've created are extraordinary. Like when I look at the vibrancy of just the physical architecture of China, it's far more impressive than what we're doing in the US. Like honestly, even this isn't entirely true. Manhattan's got some cool things going for it. LA, not at all. But when you and I, hey, Douglas Murray, I've not been to China. So with one exception of Hong Kong, which depending on how you take that, only the airport. So from what I've seen, they've done some pretty spectacular things. From an entertainment standpoint, even there, man, I'm pretty blown away by what they're doing on the anime front in terms of blending 2D and 3D animation. For anybody that follows us on the lives, that's an area of like real deep passion for me. And they're clearly like, there's a vitality to them from an output perspective. Yeah. Now, I never know what to believe in terms of their economy. Are we putting them in just absolute dire straits? Were they already in a difficult place given the housing bubble that they had created? And it's entirely possible that they're in a very weak position right now and that this is all going to play out to the US's advantage. But I live by the axiom that things are never as good as you hope they will be, and they're never as bad as you fear they will be. So I doubt this is going to play out super clean. Like America wins, China loses. It's not going to be like that. So this is an incredibly disruptive moment. I want to see, in fact, Drew, if I can sum all of this up and say this, dear America, I love you so much. Dear young people, especially, play big. Like, internally, I'm not saying focus on beating China. I'm just saying do rad shit. Like this is such an incredible moment where AI is going to unlock all of your creativity. You're going to have so few things that stop you from doing something incredible. Do something incredible. Like believe that you can create, want the competition, hunger to go on the playing field and risk losing, fine. Except that not everybody is going to end up in the same position. It is what it is, but play to win. And so the one thing that I hope comes out of what feels like such a wake-up call for me as a Gen Xer, growing up, man, was like, hey, the world doesn't owe you shit. Get out there. You're going to get kicked in the face. You're going to get broken. And some of us get stronger in the broken areas. I mean, just like that was the ethos, man. Like, get out there. You live in the land of the free. You can do anything you set your mind to, like get after it. And I don't feel that same energy. And so I don't want to see us turn into a gerontocracy, simply continue to be a gerontocracy, simply because the only people that are trying to play to win are old people, because that's how we were raised. Like that would be so fucking distressing. And I remember when, in fact, I am putting this idea together right now, when Eric Weinstein first said basically that the boomers need to give up power to, I would assume he was talking millennials. I was like, that's not how this game works. Like power is wrestled away from the people that have it. And it is entirely possible that the reason they've been able to hold on to power for so long is not only the economic woes that we have put on the younger generation. It is just the lack of energy to fucking play to win, man. To like get out there and be like, you guys are old, you are slow, and I'm going to take this away from you because I'm of the moment. Like I have the youth, I have the energy, I have the lack of scar tissue. I've been thinking about this a lot. Old people should never be able to stop young people. It should be impossible. And the fact that right now it's possible, Drew, it shouldn't be possible. Like I should not be able to put a negative enough economic situation on you that you just give up.
So what does that say that people are giving up? Like what's the cure might be a strong word, but how do you break people from that? Because there are a lot of people who are young, who are at the top of their potential, who are deciding to call it quits. I think it was like 20% of young people are not in education, not in training, not looking for work. Like they're part of the unemployment rate that we don't count as part of the unemployment rate because they're kind of already off the board. So what do you say to this younger generation that doesn't have that 80s chutzpah?
Raise your young men to be loving, protection-oriented savages. And we did multiple generations of dirty on that. And I want them to be loving. I want them to think, I want to protect my family. I want to protect my community. I want them to have that orientation, but you've got to unlock that inner savage. And we've done everything to drug it, to numb it, to shame it. And we're now paying the consequences.
Man. And speaking of China, they got a drone grenade launcher. Like, this is getting crazy, man. These
This
future tech
is
weapons, I can't even. It looks
Listen
like
to the music being played on this, dude. This is like, hey, we've got a grenade just for you.
And this grenade launcher has the ability to carry things. It can also be folded up and put inside of a grenade launcher to be shot out. It can be mounted. They were showing different use case scenarios of it flying
Indoors, dude.
Inside
For anybody
house.
that's not looking at this, you've got a little drone that can carry multiple times its weight, which is already shocking. So you could load it with 3 grenades, I think was a pitch. There's no subtitles to this, so I'm sort of taking the poster's word for it. But it shows it going inside, identifying a man in the distance that's running away from it, being like, yo, got you. And this is terrifying. So this is why you don't want things to go kinetic, man. This is not going to be a fun game. Obviously, this is already playing out right now in the Russia-Ukraine war. We've all seen plenty of footage of this, but these are now getting dramatically improved. War and pornography just make all kinds of improvements. And unfortunately, these are not always improvements that we want to see. So yeah, don't love this, man, but you're going to see more and more and more of this.
Clue Lee is out. Cheat on everything. This is my first time watching this. I need to.
Thank you. So, how old did you say you were?
I'm 30 years old.
Your profile says you worked at Bananazon?
Yeah. I've been there for the past 8 years doing like senior software engineering,
Bananazon.
coding.
Really?
I know I look a little young for my age, but I promise you, I'm 30 years old.
Okay, well, maybe you are just way older than you look.
I saw your profile back here. You're like into art.
This is hilarious. This is hilarious.
Dude, the fact that people will be able to get data
I'm pretty sure there's
from their glasses, like real time, this is what's happening, feedback, AI assistance. We are going to live in that world. Like, this is not some future thing. Google XR has already announced glasses that are theoretically going to come out in 2026 that do literally exactly what Cluely is showing in that commercial. This is our present. This isn't our future. So I'll be very interested to see what happens with all this. Now, as somebody who's just an absolute freak for this kind of technology, partly because I'm good at navigating my own life, meaning if I saw that this were diminishing my relationships, then I would know to take the glasses off and make sure that I'm building a relationship that doesn't have that. I don't know that this is going to be negative, but this is going to be a real thing. And so we're going to have to remap like what we think about how to measure like somebody's personality, how to measure their level of intelligence, like all things that you're going to cue off of and this is a dating relationship, but as an employee, like all the things, like it is utterly fascinating. But I spend so much of my time on the weekends engaging with AI. It's powerful.
I think a lot of times we talk about the meaning crisis that AI and future tech is going to bring. But to me, it's almost like right now, it seems like it's more like a utility crisis, because it's like we have all these tools at our disposal. And how do we make sure that we're using all these tools for action versus inaction versus pleasure chasing versus like collapsing into ourselves?
Well, so given what has happened with social media, a big part of this is going to be how early do you introduce these? With anything new like this, admittedly, with glasses, I would be hesitant to let my kids wear the glasses. I would want them to be tutored by AI for sure, but I would also want them to be able to navigate the world well. I think I've talked about this before on the show, but my dad used to make us, even though calculators existed and all that stuff, when we were at the store, my dad would make us try to beat the person at the cash register for how much change we were going to owe them. So the total would come up, and before, like if I was going to give them a $20 bill or whatever, and it was like $14.92, we were supposed to run the calculation in our head, like this is how much I'm owed. And things like that my parents were constantly doing to help us figure out how to navigate the world, even though there are devices that can do that work for us, they wanted us to have the intellectual capability to deal with it. I think there's going to be some amount of that. You don't want to deny your kids, like AI is just way too powerful. You want your kids being taught by AI. You want them engaging with AI. You want them to have an AI fluency. Just this morning, I was coding an app to allow myself to track my anime viewing and manga reading. And I was like, this is absolutely insane to vibe code, and it just exists. And like, oh, this part's broken. And you don't tell the AI how to fix it. You just go, it's broken. And it's like, say less, fam, I got you. Goes in, figures out how it's broken, it fixes it. There was something so crazy to me about that. Absolutely fascinating. Now, you were talking for a while about the working out app that you were building, but you don't talk about it anymore. So I'm guessing you ran up against a limitation.
I hit a wall. So the wall that I got was the scale aspect of it. It's very specific to me. And I have a offline version.
Do you use it?
I got there. This is I think is very this is
making clear where we're at.
Yeah, this is the utility part of it aspect, because it's like I was able to build it, and the idea and the concept was basically gamifying workout, tracking your meals and stuff like that, kind of modeled in like a game, like a gaming way. So I built it. It works offline on my phone, but I didn't think about like the protocols and the necessary backend things to make it like live on the App Store. So right now it's like a dev version on my Android, which is good, but I only have like 4 pages. It doesn't update like automatically. I have to manually add like more screens and stuff. My nephew is like literally a computer scientist. So I'm like, okay, hey bro, here's a half broken code. Can you help me parse through it? So he's now saying, okay, you need to put this over here. You need to put this right here. This is how it needs to launch. And then from there, we can then put it in AI to get the final like output. So that's what like the last 2 weeks have been of like,
I'd be very interested
cleaning
to
it up and
see
getting
now
out
that
there.
Google has launched Codebase, I believe.
Yeah.
Firebase, excuse me. To see how much farther it can push it. Because here's the thing I want people to zoom in on. If you find yourself allowing yourself to say things like, AI is not there yet, like this is trash, zoom in on the word yet. Because if it's true that this stuff is advancing 300% year over year with no signs of stopping, dude, that every day is almost a percentage point improvement, which means in 10 days, it's 10% better.
Yeah.
That's crazy. In 100 days, it's almost 100% better. So it is, by the end of this year, the kinds of leaps and bounds I think that we're going to see are going to be bananas. And so I get it. We're hitting a wall right now for sure. The same is true. Like I'm so desperately trying to use it for creating comic books and anime. And you hit a wall very fast. But I'm like, when I think back to where we were 2 years ago, I'm like, holy Lord. Like we have come so far, so fast that where are we going to be in 18 months? It's just going to keep getting better.
And it seems like we just have to hit like that precipice that like once we cross that certain corner, then it's like, boom, we shoot for it. So
no doubt. It's already getting so good that every weekend I find myself going, okay, when do we start investing in like, we're now just an AI animation house. Like that's what we do. Because right now we're still pushing some of our traditional stuff forward, seeking funding, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, that's not long for this world. Like, I don't think it's on our docket, but we should talk about the Ryan Coogler deal that he just got with Warner Brothers. Very fascinating. After 25 years, I think the IP reverts back to him. He gets a big chunk of the box office. And the question becomes, why would Warner Brothers ever agree to a deal like that? And they'll agree to a deal like that because of what is happening with AI. These guys are not dumb. They understand that they are in an existential crisis. Streaming fired the shot that caused them to be bleeding out. But now to have that followed up with AI, it's just the game is going to be over because where would I peg it? 3 years from now, probably 3 years from now, you will be able to, I don't know if you'll ever, never say never. I don't know if it's in the very short term that you'll be able to just single prompt a one-shot thing and then you love it. I think it's always going to need refine.
Yeah.
But the ability to refine in what people think of as vibe coding, that I think is going to be very real. And so you'll pull up an image and you'll just be like, no, not like that. Change this aspect of it. And then you'll be like, cool, I got it. Because that's the big thing. Like right now when I'm trying to create a character, I'll like, okay, I love everything about it, but the hands. And then when you go to do something with the hands, it changes everything just enough that it breaks what you liked about it.
Yeah.
So it becomes this sort of infuriating loop of like, stop changing the things that I already like. I think they'll be able to do that very, very well. So if you can do that in the next 3 years, you've like, what does Netflix become? Becomes YouTube.
Yeah.
And so now it is an entire universe of user-generated content. I think a lot about this with the video game stuff. How do you facilitate the users creating within your container their own game experience? Because that's what everything is going to be. Yeah, don't.
I feel like we're seeing that now, though. If you look at like Roblox, Fortnite, like even Minecraft, you go to this world to use these shapes and these patterns and these colors to then create the game and this environment you want.
It is still right now. They're on the right path. These guys clearly see the right future. I want to be very clear. Let them have all their flowers. However, there is a big difference between it's a developer class fighting for the attention of all of these players versus YouTube, where you've got a guy on his phone who makes a video that 72 people will ever see, and that's it. And there's some ungodly long tail of like, oh, I just needed a video for that specific thing and I watched it. We're going to get these hyper niche communities. Now, why does this matter? Because when you think about the modern world as we know it, is the answer to what does it look like when you can effectively aggregate capital. So you look at a skyscraper, that is aggregated capital. That's somebody who goes to a bank or a consortium and gets a huge amount of money to build something like that. But we live in a world where you have all these gigantic companies, buildings, bridges, whether they're aggregating tax dollars or they're aggregating investment dollars or what have you. But you're living in a world of aggregated capital. What AI is going to bring is a world of disaggregated capital, because everybody's going to be able to have their niche thing. And I don't know, certainly in the world of entertainment, I don't know how you will ever need to aggregate capital, which means that you no longer have these big companies, which means it will be very hard to get the whole world to pay attention to something at the same time. Now, when you look at X, there's a lot of things trending, but we're all downstream of our algorithm. And so what does the world look like when there is so much content being created everywhere, even in video games, which traditionally has been so hard to do that you were going to get like a ruling elite at the top. When all of that goes away, do things get better or worse? I actually don't know.
The streaming thing was interesting to me because I feel like the studios caused their own death by chasing down what Netflix did, and where Netflix was able to kind of double down, gain more attention, double down, gain more attention. Studios then try to pivot and kind of copy, which is the studio system. They see a hit on somewhere else and they try to copy and emulate it. And to your point, it has now caused this like downward spiral where a movie hitting number one on a box office is now 60 million, where a year ago, 2 years ago, pre-pandemic, it was 100, 200, 300 million opening weekends. So now that the theater system is cut away, I do think fundamentally we are going to consume content differently. But do you think we're going to hit like a breaking point? Because at one point, there's still 17 popular YouTubers and the other 4 million that are striving for one of those spots. Do you think it's still going? I think there's still going to be those people at the top. Or do you think AI can reshuffle that completely?
AI will reshuffle that completely. Think about how Mr. Beast has pulled away from the pack. He's done it because he was the first to a format, or at least the first to do it well, to a format. But then he was able to build these budgets up that now, like, how are you going to copy him? Like, he's giving away $10 million inside of his Amazon show. It's like, that's going to be tough to replicate until there are no barriers. You can do whatever the hell you want because you can create. None of this stuff costs money to create. And so it literally will It's just your imagination because AI will pump it out.
Huh. Well, we'll see. In video game news, I wanted to bring this up to you because Asmongold was talking about Marathon, and he says that he needs to make sure that the female characters in the game are effable. I'll let you hear from him, and then I want to pose this question about marketing and how we attract like consumers.
I think that pretty much every single circumstance, it's always a bad idea to make characters that are not conventionally attractive. Because this is, again, this is a shooter game, and shooter games are going to be primarily played by men. So if you're making a shooter game that's primarily made for men, then you should make sure that all of the female characters in the game are fuckable. And I know this might sound crazy to say, but I'm just going to say it. That's what you should do. That's what you should do, because that's what people want to do. That's what girls will cosplay. Girls don't want to cosplay ugly, weird-looking, androgynous, creepy characters. And all of that, like, think about how much advertising Marvel Rivals gets because of how many girls try to cosplay the characters. I think that...
I don't get why this is controversial. So here is the reality. We live in the marketplace of ideas. Mm-hmm. And if people really want characters that are fuckable, then create a game with characters that are fuckable and see if people play it. And if they do, cool, you found a niche in the market, go do your thing. He is merely, from where I'm sitting, he's merely talking about evolutionary responses, and that when you look at society as averages, that men are attracted to attractive women, and whether they're pixels or not, if you see a woman that has a posterior, just to not continue to double down on the naughty words here, that triggers that brain response, then yeah, people are going to play that. So, because they want to look at it, it's creating the psychological response, the neurochemical response that people are looking for. So, and if not, and if I'm wrong about that and society has moved on, then make the game with the androgynous weird characters, whatever you said, and it'll be popular. So if I were going to make a bet as a builder, I would make the bet more on the side of let's make sure that these are conventionally attractive, just because there's more evolutionary weight behind that. But I don't have any problem with seeing this play out where people are voting with their dollars. So let people say what they're going to say. The way that my brain is wired, I do not have a emotional response to this. It's like, cool. Yeah, that makes sense to me. But people are going to feel some kind of way about it.
I feel like we're at the intersection right now, especially where culture, politics is telling us everybody is beautiful. That's
just not true.
These are the standards. No, but that's that's the overwhelming message, that we need to accept all types. We need to like there's this, but then on the marketing side, there's still these very niche responses that they're trying to start from us. So like Victoria's Secret is still going to sell sex. Like there's still little boys are going to be attracted to women that they idolize, like to Asmongold's point. So there are these, you can call them evolutionary pressures. I call them traditional pressures that they work. Like the reason everything is sexy is because sex sells. It works. It's proven. The reason that the women have certain body types and characters in a lot of these like articles and magazines and movies and media mediums is because it attracts the males, that attracts the dollars, that attracts all these things. So it's one of those things of, do we rectify that, or is it just like if it's not broke, don't fix it? Like
the second you are out of step with evolution, you are in trouble. Now, the reason that this persists is because you can manipulate humans. And the younger you get people, man, the more you can sort of nudge the things that they find interesting. I really need to research this to make sure that it's true, but I'm going to keep spouting it until I find contradictory evidence that all sexual fetishes are formed by the age of 14. And that there's just something about those early years, the age of imprinting, where like whatever you are bombarded with, which is why beauty standards change over time, whatever you're bombarded with, you're going to find attractive. But you have to, that like has to line up with evolution. So you're not going to be able to, at scale, I don't think, get everybody to be like, people that look like horses, like that's the really attractive thing. And yes, I'm well aware of furries, but I'm just saying that that's out of step. So good luck. You're going to get like a fringe of people that you might be able to convince of that, but heavier women, thinner women, big boobs, big asses, like that all falls within, these are still signs of fertility. So now what the culture invests in hey, cool. Like you can get it to swing one way or the other within bounds. So I get why people, because they can either intuitively feel that or they know it intellectually, it's like they get that you can sort of sway these things. And so they want to get in the mix and sway it. But at the same time, if you step out of like what evolution has just ground into the development of your brain, good luck. You're really going to struggle. Do a quick search for me for young boy watches belly dancer in awe. I love everything about that. This is what you're up against. Good luck beating that. Like no one is telling that kid, find this attractive. His jaw is literally going to hit the floor in a minute.
Well,
there it is, man. Good luck. Good luck fighting against that.
All right, that's all I got.
All right, boys and girls, speaking of things you should never fight against, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. And until next time, my friends, be legendary. If you like this conversation, check out this episode to learn more. A U.S. senator traveled to El Salvador to free Abrego Garcia. The Supreme Court made their feelings on the matter clear for anyone willing to read it. Trump harangues Powell to lower rates. Powell continues to ignore him. Gavin Newsom sues Trump on behalf of California. And